Welcome to the Lowdown Podcast, the show where we dive deep into the topics that directly impact the evolving originator. I'm your host, Connor Bartley. Bam! And joining me today, we've got an absolute stud. This guy has only been in the business now for just over 2 years. His second full year of lending in 2025, already on pace to close just under 20 million and help about 90 to 100 families this year. So I think he's going to get there before the end of the year is over. But through my interactions with him, he embodies the characteristics of an evolving originator. Francisco Gaona, welcome to the Lowdown.
Thank you for inviting me, Connor. I appreciate it.
You bet, man. You bet. Well, thanks for joining me, man. And I'm really inspired by your journey because you have taken what this industry has to offer and are running with it. And that's really awesome to see. This industry has zero income cap. You can make as much money as you can earn. And so there's no limit to what's possible. And yet there's a lot of opportunity out there that people miss. And just in my interactions with you, you've always struck me as a very curious person, someone who's really trying to get beyond just sort of average or leveling off. You're constantly trying to level up. And so it's been really awesome to just see things continue to grow. But before we dive into that, because that'll be a great part of the conversation, help us get in a sense of just like your background, how you got into mortgage, why you've taken this approach to it, and just sort of help us get a better understanding of you.
Sweet. Yeah. So, taking it back to me, growing up, being a first generation here, I always got instilled about having a good work ethic. My parents, pretty much all my childhood, always working jobs like super early, would wake up, go to work, come back home late. So that was always a big thing. And then post college, after I kind of got into the workforce, I always liked accounting, and I ended up landing with this CPA out here in Tulsa, where I'm from, in Oklahoma. Was working with her for a little bit. She ran her business a little different, ended up butting heads, and the beginning of 2023, she ended up just letting me go from her company. Then luckily, I don't know, I tell everyone has their own beliefs, but I feel like it was kind of like God's plan. Everything that happened for a reason. And then I was just kind of at home one day, and my uncle comes over. He's like, "Hey, how about we go to this other tax place, because I still liked accounting." And I was like, I want to learn a little bit about that business. And yeah, sure enough, I went with him. Told the lady who did his taxes my whole spiel, and they told me at that moment they weren't hiring anyone. And then about a week later, I left her all my info and stuff. She calls me. She's like, "Hey, something opened up." Went, interviewed, hired me on the spot. They were pretty adamant about telling me hey, come the end of tax season in 2023, which was April 15th. They were like, "It's going to be your last day." I was like, "No big deal." And then at the beginning of April of that year, I was like, "What am I going to do? What's the next step?" And I don't know why, but in my mind, it just made the connection. I was thinking people, every file is different and it's numbers. So I just made the connection. I had a buddy who was in mortgages out here. I was like, "Hey man, is it cool if I come shadow one day?" He's like, "Yeah, come over." He gave me the rundown. I was like, "Okay." He did say hardest thing right now is to get hired, and then to pass the NMLS test. I was like, "Okay." And then I kid you not, the guy, my area sales manager now, he came and did his taxes the next day, and I was the guy to do his taxes. I saw one of his tax forms. I was said mortgage on it. I just started asking him questions. He gave me his number, bugged him, and here we are.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. So, first of all, let me just say I love that you took the initiative to just go for it. What do you have to lose, right? You don't get what you
Nothing.
don't if you don't ask. You can either in this world get what you want or take what you get. And I love that you were like, I'm gonna get what I want, and and just go for it. So that's phenomenal. And so you get started, what was it, June of 2023, somewhere around that range. And so, take us through the first 6 months. What was that like for you? Were you, what were the struggles? What were the things that tripped you up? I mean, how did that first 6 months go?
Yeah, the first 6 months, obviously the first month, I was pretty much just studying to take the test. Thankfully, ended up working out. We passed it on the first try. So that was good. And then from that point on, I feel like I was really fortunate. The guy who ended up hiring me on, he's still my team lead. He's a really big producer out here in my area, and I feel like that helped me in so many ways that I feel like, if you can ever get someone to be a mentor, that it speeds up your learning process and everything. And every day, I mean, after I got my license, I asked him like, what should I do? And he was always giving me recommendations on things to do. And pretty much this first 6 months was just heavy like networking, meeting, trying to set up appointments to meet with people, a lot of cold calling. At that time, we used MMI, a lot of like looking up agents and just trying to introduce myself and get in front of agents. Pretty much every weekend was like, doing open houses and just trying to get my name out there. Obviously, I mean, as every loan officer can tell you, at the very beginning, you don't have any reputation, no one knows you. So it's just a lot of that. And yeah, I think that was all it was. From the moment I got licensed, July 5th, to the end of that year in 2023, I did 3 transactions. And then, like the growth started happening. Those 3 agents, start referring you to others, and then you build relationships, and the seeds you planted back, August, September, all that fall start, blooming in the beginning of the next year. And then thankfully, 2024 was, I think, a solid year for my first year. And then, we just keep going from there and seeing how we can keep getting better.
Keep on going, man. Well, I love that someone gave you a chance, saw, and gave you that opportunity, because you're right, and they were right. Getting hired brand new to this business can be very difficult. I speak from experience as a recruiter in this industry. There's always an expect, or there's a requirement, or an expectation that, if we're going to hire somebody, they're bringing on, a book of business already and things like that. And there's just not a lot of opportunities for someone brand new. And so I love that someone saw that potential, and that you took the initiative, and they, recognized that and said, all right, we'll give this guy a chance, see what he's all about. And then, man, 6 months of only 3 transactions. So how were you, like, because that is thankless work. That's
Yeah.
difficult. I mean, to go through sales and to just not see the fruits of your labor. I mean, we're in a long sales cycle industry, and so it can be hard to kind of trudge through all that. Like, how did you keep going?
Yeah, man. I don't know. I guess I just had the idea, it's all about mindset. I feel like it kind of breaks down to that. And then you just don't think about like the moment right now. You think further down the road. I feel like I'm a big fan of Alex Hormozy. He says, "Don't measure the days, measure the decades." And I knew it was like whenever I did get my first transaction, is like, I'm gonna make sure it's a home run, so that person, knows I'm a reliable lender. And not just that, like from that first transaction, we've done many more transactions, and now to this day, like if she has a deal that goes sideways, I'm the first person she calls, just because she knows she can count on me. But yeah, definitely at the very beginning it was hard. But given I was green, I didn't know anything. I didn't know what to expect,
Yeah.
because they did tell me from the moment they hired me, they're like, "Hey, can you go 6 months without making any money?" And I was like, well, in that moment, I was like, yeah, I don't have any problem with that. And yeah, just, I don't know. I just saw it. I was like, every day I'm going to go in and give my best and just try to get a little bit better every day. And thankfully, that kind of just kept me going. And I feel like I've always tried to just keep a positive outlook. Everything happens for a reason. And as long as you give off good energy, you will attract good energy. And people see that. And if you're genuine and you're honest about everything, I mean, it's just something that like always comes around.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. And so then before we started recording, you shared with me that you've been in coaching since January of this year, and you're starting to just invest even more in yourself and in your growth. What has that experience been like for you?
Man, that experience has been eye-opening because obviously, like I said, my mentor, he's been a huge part of it. And I'm thankful for like everything he's taught me. And then you could say like coaching's kind of like defining your craft. Like you knew all these things you had to do, but now like with the coaching, one, I feel like a big part of it's accountability, because as we all know in this industry, no one's going to push you to do anything. So the environment in that coaching community is like amazing. And not just that, they have so many resources that you could take advantage of to help up your game and help you stand out compared to like other people in the industry. Because it comes down to that at one point, like, hey, how are you different? How are you going to separate yourself from the rest of the other loan officers around you?
Yeah, yeah. And so are you in more of like a collaborative community? You get an opportunity to kind of talk with other originators in different parts of the country and see what they're up to also, and just to have that sort of accountability among the whole group, or how does it work for you?
Yeah. No, yeah. There's a whole community of us all across the U.S. We have like coaching calls where we get together once a week, and then other calls throughout the week if you want to attend. But yeah, man, it's because like that environment, just like hopping on those calls at least once a week, and just seeing like they do have like a leaderboard and everything to see how you're doing in the community, and it helps kind of push each other. I mean, everyone who's in sales, I feel like has a little bit of
A little
competitiveness
bit
and
of
wants
that.
to be,
Yeah.
yeah, a little bit of that. So I feel like that helps keep pushing you.
That's cool, man. Well, so now that you're sort of getting the hang of it all, right? I mean, it's funny to say that you're growing at a pace that's very different from what I normally see in this business, and so you've got some good things going for you. But what are some of the things that still frustrate you today? I mean, where do you struggle a little?
Where would I say I struggle? Right now, I feel like I'm at that one part where I'm kind of trying to like. Thankfully, I got to the point where I was able to get someone hired on, like a loan officer assistant. Learning how to try to be a leader and delegate more things to make it more efficient. Because obviously, as everyone knows, as they're trying to grow their local business, you can't do everything alone. And I feel like it's a little, I don't know if I would say frustrating, just different. Trying to like learn how to do those things, and maybe you know take a little step back so you're not as involved in the file. So that's just been different, and trying to learn that. And the person I did bring on was kind of like me, new to everything. So it's kind of
Yeah,
like and I knew that from the get go when I hired her. I knew she was, but I have the feeling she's going to be good. So it's just
yeah.
about like training it. At the beginning, it's more work, but hey, as long as they stick with it, I think it's going to be a great addition to the team, and I'm excited for her and excited where like the business goes. I think it's going to help us hopefully, keep doubling and keep growing.
Yeah, I love that. You took the elevator up and then you sent it back down, right? You let somebody get back on, and you're going to bring them up the same way you got in and take a flyer and help somebody else get there. So I think that's phenomenal stuff, man. You mentioned something earlier, and I just want to go back to it because this is something that's come up a lot with the originators that have joined this show, and it's that they got their start on a team that was a high producing team, or working with a big producer, someone that could really put them in the mix early and often. How has that played a role in your development, just that exposure to seeing high production firsthand?
Man, for me personally, at the very, very beginning, it was a little intimidating, right? Like I did,
Yeah,
3 units in 6 months. So I was like, okay, like I need to step it over. I need to be doing something else. But I'm also a big fan of, I don't know if you've heard of him. His name's Ed Milet, and he kind of, instilled in me like, uh, comparison is the thief of joy, right? You can't compare yourself to someone who's like on chapter 8 and you're on chapter, 0 to like going on to 1. So after I kind of had like that mind shift, I was like, okay, like I'm gonna take it day by day and just try to get better every day.
yeah,
Um, but being in that environment, man, like I said, it excels the growth because I feel like we're always walking through like scenarios. He'll tell me like, hey, I had this and this go on. But if you ever come across it, like you already know, like, hey, this happened to him. Here's how I would get around it if it came to me. So I feel like it's helped me evolve and be more of a creative loan officer that maybe some other people wouldn't think of, even if though they've had maybe a little bit more time than me in the business, just because they haven't run across all these scenarios that he's ran. Like for example, I think last year, if I'm not mistaken, he closed over 200 units, like funded almost 60 million in volume. So it's like being around someone like that.
yeah. I mean, that's for some, that's more than some entire teams out there. You know what I mean? And so to be around that, and to are you in the office regularly? I mean, do you guys get a chance to work together side by side often, or how often are you guys
Every
able to
day,
compare
every
notes
day, every
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 day?
day. He told me from the get
So
go. He's like,
valuable, man.
yeah, coming to the office. He's like, not just because of that, but the atmosphere. Like he's like, and we're like, I mean, we're both kind of competitive, and like we hear each other talking. We're like, okay, no, I got to go pick up the phone. He's making more calls than me. Here he has like we use like greatness trackers. I don't know if you're familiar with. We make note. We keep tracking because like if you don't track, you don't care, right?
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, man. Well, we joked about how Hormozy should just start a mortgage company, and
Yeah.
it would be a huge
Mostly,
success, right? Just, I mean, he's had an impact on me. He's clearly had an impact on you. I know there's a lot of people that are big fans, and your
yeah,
inputs really matter. The what you give, what you feed yourself, the influences that you expose yourself to. They make a big difference in how successful you'll be. I'm personally reading a book right now called Go for Stupid by Steve Sims, and there's a whole chapter in there about just like being controlling the door, being in command of who you allow to let into your life and who is in your circle, so that you keep that standard high. And that was one of the things that you touched on it, but about being in that high production environment early, it sets a different standard. From where I sit talking with people all over the country with different teams and at different levels of production, you can run across these branches where the top producer in the branch might be doing 12 or 15 million, and while that's nothing to be ashamed of, that's great production. If the others in the branch aren't exposed to anything better or higher than that, then that's the benchmark, right? And so
yeah,
having someone set the standard early on in your career that hey, this is what's possible. Like, you can hit
yeah,
200 units, 60 million, the kind of income that comes with that. It's a whole different ballgame when you get to see that firsthand. Otherwise, kind of back to your Milet quote, comparison being the thief of joy. We can't help but compare a lot, right? And so then you start comparing yourself to a different standard, and maybe you're like, hey, I'm good when I hit 12 million. I'm topping my branch now. And so anyway, it's just a very different environment to enter into the business with. So let's go one step further. Okay, so you're on a great track. Coaching's working out well. Good things are happening. Everything seems to be trending in the right direction. What's next for you? So you've made a hire, like as far as a skill development or team building or whatever. Like, where are you headed next for your progression here?
man. My progression, and do you mean in more like regards to like the numbers, or like what do you mean? I guess a little
No,
more
just like
specific.
leveling up, skilling up. Where do you feel you need to make another step, a gain, to just keep getting better?
Um, where I could feel like a gain more of like kind of like what I was saying, like in the whole like coaching thing where we're like kind of defining our craft. Uh, kind of like maybe stepping on my game in regards to like the way I handle like my initial loan consultations and pretty much kind of develop my game as a loan officer. Because I
Yeah.
feel like throughout the coaching program I'm in, they're always coming up with different ideas on like how to stay on top of things, like kind of like we had been talking about months before, like with the newsletters, staying consistent with those, marketing, content, pumping out more content, or maybe getting even better at it. Maybe the quality of it might not be as good. Kind of like you know crafting those out, but at the same time, like obviously increasing like the production of the volume and the families we help. Because I feel like, I don't know, I've never seen it more on the volume side. I've always seen it more on the unit side. The more people we touch and help, the more like that spider web grows, and the more people get
Absolutely,
to know
man.
us.
Mortgage is a momentum sport, and the more you fund, the more you fund, and and so you just got to keep adding to the scoreboard, and it all works out in the end. But I don't mean to put it that way in terms of it. There are real people and families involved here, and when you
Yeah,
take care of people and you do right by them and you really focus on the experience that they're having, you know, great things happen. And you can't be transactional in this business, and it doesn't sound like you're that at all. And so, nothing but blue skies ahead, man. But I got to say, you mentioned content. You are killing it on content, man. Like, I was watching some of the videos that you've done recently, and I can remember some of the older ones you've done, and just like the progression. I see that you're coaching these class or teaching these classes, these lunch and learns or these realtor classes, and like you're doing all the things that point to something big is on the horizon. So just keep it up, man. It's really awesome to watch.
I appreciate that, brother. It means a lot.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, any closing thoughts, anything to leave the audience with before we wrap up here?
Man, just if you do get in the industry, just do your research. One thing I didn't mention before I got into it too, while I was kind of doing all my studying and stuff, I did Have you heard of T-Lop, the loan officer podcast? That was
Yeah,
a
of
Yeah, that was
course.
big on me too.
Yeah.
I was just watching all those YouTube videos trying to get an idea, but I feel like once I got into it, it was all like a 360. You're like, whoa, like all these things. Like now you're on a marketing person, and you have to learn all these, guidelines and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, just do your homework before, because
Oh
it
yeah,
was a
man.
lot at once.
So, if anybody's watching this and they've watched other episodes, they've heard this before. But I'll tell you, I recorded a different episode this morning with a big producer in Texas, over 200 units funded last year. I mean, the team did like 700. She said in her first month on the job, this was 11 years ago, she took the Fannie booklets and the Freddie booklet and some yellow legal pads and literally just transcribed the whole thing twice. She just sat down and wrote it word for word so it would just sink in. And that's learning is working. And I think a lot of times we put off learning because we just want to go hunt. When we're salespeople, we're like, listen, I just need to get out there. I need the activity. I need to be productive. And there's just this pressure of producing. But sometimes we've got to take that step and pause and go, I need to know what I'm doing so that I can do it effectively and really be intentional about learning it the right way. So that's a good call out, man. I appreciate you bringing that up. And listen, man, thank you, Francisco, for being here on the lowdown. It was great having this conversation with you. I wish you nothing but the best, man.
Appreciate it, Connor. Thank you.
You bet.